Greetings, welcome back to another quick tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to go over sudo. It shouldn't take all that long because we'll talk about it a little bit. We'll show you one example, and then again there's lots of times you'll need it, but I'm not going to go over all the examples now. So sudo allows you to run commands in the terminal as super user, i.e. admin, right? Gives you admin access to this. So for example, if I were to type in apt-get install LibreOffice, right? I want to install LibreOffice. This would be the command to do it. However, when I click enter, you'll see cannot open this file, unable to acquire package front end, and it right here. So permission denied is normally a good thing, and then this one even asks you, are you root? Root again is just another name for super, the super user, admin user who has access to everything. So this allows you to not accidentally do stuff, right? So you're not always running commands as admin, and you could do something really bad. It kind of forces you to type this extra command that we're about to do. And it could be anything. There are certain files, and you just watched the nano video, hopefully. There's certain files that you can edit, config files, but you can't edit it unless you type in sudo. Also be cognizant of that if you run nano with sudo, it's going to normally save that file as admin, and you won't be able to access it again unless you run it as sudo. But what that looks like, super user do sudo, and then what you're trying to type. So apt get install LibreOffice. Now, chances are that's probably not actually the name of the package, so I might get a different error. But this should now run apt-get as sudo, so when I go to install, these will not be an issue anymore. So I'm going to run this, and again, it'll probably tell me that the package doesn't exist because it needs something, but it might work. So it will do this, it'll install. I recommend installing this, so if you're following along at home, there's a lot to be installed, so we're not going to obviously stay here for the whole thing, but super user apt-get install LibreOffice will give you essentially the Office suite, so stuff like Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel, and all that fun stuff. Depending on which one you installed for Raspberry Pi, this might already be on there too, so you might get an error saying you already have it installed. I'm going to click enter, which here's another hint for Linux. If you see a big Y, that's the default. So if you click enter, it'll do it. Otherwise, you actually have to type in the Y. But because that's already the big one, I just click enter, and it's going to do that for me. So one last thing, again, as another example, why that's working on that so we don't have to see it. If you wanted to, again, nano, we talked about nano last time. My file, this file doesn't exist, but whether it be config file, whatever it is, if you want to or need to, because it's a config file, you can type in sudo in front of it, and that will open nano in admin mode, allowing you to access more files. One word of advice before we wrap this up. Sometimes nano will open the file, you'll make a bunch of changes, and then just won't let you save the file, right? So a lot of the times the files are just read-only unless you're super user. So you might be like, oh, I can get to the file, but as soon as you go to save it, it doesn't save. That's all there really is to see. I mean, there's a lot more to super user, but for most of the purposes you're going to use is installing, accessing certain files, running certain programs. You'll run those as sudo. And that's all we have on that. We'll see you next tutorial.